A few years back, we did a video on how to touch up your front bumper, and basically that video was the basics of how to use your typical OEM pen. We'll give you a refresher in a minute, but a lot of people in that video asked, what are the limits of touch-up paint? You know, how far can you go to make a touch-up paint look really, really good? In that video, we showed you just the basics of how to apply it as kind of a band-aid to fix some very, very small scratches and chips. But if you want to actually make it look as good as possible, there's a lot more to it than just hitting it with a brush, and today we're going to show you how. So unfortunately, when driving home from Ponies to Smokies, this happened to my Shelby. Got two small chips on the pillar. But this is the kind of thing you want to fix with touch-up paint. I've seen people do larger sections and try to, it's just never ever going to look right when you're trying to cover a large section. Basically, rule of thumb, it comes with a brush. If you have to actually use a brush stroke to fill the scratch, you're probably getting to the point that it's too large. Now, longer scratches can be a little different because you can still make them look better, but you're never going to be able to blend that properly. So that's the kind of thing that probably needs to be repainted. But something like this is perfect for touch-up paint. This is going to be your typical touch-up paint pen. Now, we carry these for all the Ford colors and also all the Mopar colors. Now, you got a couple different things you can do here. When you pop this cap off, you got this fine tip pen. This is going to be used for very, very fine scratches. And if you actually unthread this, and you have an actual brush in here with more color on it. Then when you flip it over, that's going to be your clear coat. So literally they give you everything right in this pen. Now before, again, we showed you the basics of touching it up. Today we're going to show you how to take it a step further and make it look even more OEM than a normal touch-up job. So first thing, we're actually just going to clean the area. We're obviously going to get more fingerprints on it, but we want to start with a clean surface. Like I said, you unthread this, and there is your touch-up brush. And then out here you have a pen. So you hold it down, push down, and paint will come out. Again, this is going to be for your smaller touch-up. We're going to use a brush for the larger touch-up. And then finally you have this little cap on here. This is basically just to clean out the opening where the paint is missing so it makes a better touch-up. Just like in real full-size painting of cars, prep is what makes the difference between a good touch-up and a bad touch-up job. Again, same thing. We're gonna use that for prep, but again, we'll get to that in a minute. And then use this, you'll actually hear it. Basically allows you to clean this surface. This thing is like a small little piece of sandpaper. So if that tip didn't get it clean enough, you're still gonna feel edges. You don't want any really hard edges. So now we use a little bit of wet sandpaper. So wet the area. And again, just use a little pressure right around the chips. Basically get it till you don't feel any kind of a sharp edge. Okay, now we're gonna wipe it off. This will be kind of scary if you've never done it before because the surface is gonna be very dull looking. It's gonna look like you damaged your paint, but as long as you didn't push too hard and use like a 2500, 2000, don't go anything below that. If you have really hard paint, 1500 will work, but Ford paint's pretty soft, so 2 to 2500 is a good place to start. Okay, now let's get some alcohol. Again, we're gonna clean the area we're painting. Make sure it's free of any contaminants. Make sure it's nice and dry as well. Now what I'm gonna do is just put a little piece of tape right below the area that we're going to be doing this here. Do it right, you shouldn't get too much of a drip, but if you do, you don't want it on the moldings. Just make sure you don't touch the section you already cleaned there. Okay, now you're gonna grab your touch-up pen. Like any other paint, you want to shake it up thoroughly before you use it. So we're going to use the pen for the smaller one. Just dot it first. Don't worry about if it comes out a little bit. Make sure it fills the entire opening. So We're gonna use the brush for the second one. We actually could use the pen for both, but I wanna show you how to use both of them. So the brush, you wanna basically make sure you get a lot of the paint off of it. We live near a paint shop. They sell what are called micro brushes that look like Q-tips, but even smaller. They're really good for this, but we're gonna use what's included. And again, with this, you just wanna dab it. So the chip is basically a crevice in the paint. So what you wanna do is fill that up even over to the edge, because then we're gonna sand it smooth. So after your first coat dries, again, 5-10 minutes, you usually can get pretty dry on this stuff. You should be able to see if the paint is inside the crevice or up to the top. If it's not quite at the top, grab a little more touch-up paint and put a little more in there. All right, so once the paint has dried, get the wet sandpaper again. Again, sand it till it feels like it's blended in smooth. So this is the part where patience is gonna come in handy. You may end up doing this 2, 3, even 4 times until you feel that the entire crevice is full of paint properly, the chip is full, and keep sanding it until, again, it's smooth. You wanna be able to run your finger over it. You really don't wanna feel anything. You might be able to tell it's there, but you shouldn't be able to actually feel the ridges. If you do, you have to put some more paint in, and again, repeat the process. Put some paint in, wait for it to dry, hit it with some sandpaper, again, higher grit, 2500, 3000, in that neighborhood, until you have a smooth surface, but the paint is full, and they're ready for the next step. Okay, once it dries, now we can apply some clear coat. We'll let that dry. Okay, once the clear coat sets up, we're gonna use some 3000 now, and again, just sand it in. Once you get it smooth, you can dry it, and then you're ready to buff it out. So at this point, it's dry. What we're gonna do is grab a little bit of rubbing compound here and just start buffing it out. Now, if you do have a buffer, you can do a much better job with a machine, but if not, you can do this by hand. All right, then we wanna wipe it off. You have to do this a couple times to get the polish to come back up. Okay, now we're gonna put a little bit of polish on here. So we're not gonna use any camera tricks and try to fool you guys and tell you this looks perfect, you can't even tell. If you get this close to it, you can still see it's touched up. From a foot away though, you can't even notice it. And best of all, it's nice and smooth to the touch, which means those chips are not gonna get any worse. Now this process will take some time. You wanna make sure you let it dry between the wet sanding stages, or you're just gonna make it worse. But again, give yourself a few hours to do this, and with touch-up paint, you make your car look a lot better than it used to.